Hi. Apparently it's time to start, unfortunately, for me and for you. This is the topic of our today's presentation. If you're for something else, I hope so, then it's somewhere else. But if not, then fuck. Okay, let's start with simple and forever, who am I and what are we going to talk about? I'm a PCF product, so I started working at People Can Fly. Right now I'm a technical producer, so a lot of things that I'm going to talk about are related to code development and are perceived from more technical side. But we're also going to talk about team management and planning. I also am a psychology major. I'm a happy owner of master thesis on stigma, so something kind of related to cognitive biases. And one question, do we have any psychologists in the room? God damn it, so I cannot bullshit you too much. Okay, so you just nod and we both pretend that we know what I'm talking about, okay? That's cool. I'm also a people enthusiast, so this topic is kind of important for me because I like digging into human brain and thinking about why do we do stuff like that and not otherwise. And it's kind of interesting to know where we come from. And what we're going to talk about is cognitive biases, haha, surprise. And bear in mind that what we're going to talk about is not something, I'm not going to give you solutions how to use cognitive biases to make your life easier, to create your games more awesome, and to make your teams work efficiently superb. I'm going to start your thinking patterns, and I'm going to give you some knowledge how to perceive cognitive biases, where you can see it, how it can work. So you gotta adjust it so those to you, and everything is kind of different with different teams, different games, different people. So it's just a start. The topic's very broad, so well, you're gonna have to invent some new stuff on your own. Maybe you're already using also some cognitive biases and you just don't know about it. Okay. And let's start the super interesting topic of cognitive biases. How many of you actually knew what is cognitive bias before? Okay, so we got some. That's way better than in Germany, so good for you. Well, a shortcut for cognitive bias, because of course you have the long and boring science definition here, so you can kind of write it down or copy it, whatever, but it doesn't matter. Cognitive bias mostly focus on finding solutions in complex world. The mind encounters a lot of stimuli, a lot of things, and we are gonna want to translate it into a way that we understand it, and in a useful units of information that we can process more quickly. And one of the demonstrations of it is the existence of cognitive biases. It's why we understand stuff, how we understand stuff, and how we just translate it into something normal for us. It's not about how accurate it is, actually, or logical even sometimes, but it's about how well it solves a particular problem in relation to other problems in the future, for example. So if we can use this bias in the future, it's going to be more profitable for us. It's also byproduct of process limitations. We are not able to process all the information that is coming our way. Sometimes we need something quicker, some quicker way to process things. So we use these shortcuts. We use it to do everything faster. And actually from this derives the next part, the lower part, how it's created. The first part are shortcuts that are most awesome, heuristics, otherwise called. It's just useful, and it's supposed to work in the most circumstances, but they fall short of some standards. So it's just like simplified rules of reasoning. Like I said, it's going to work sometimes, but it's just simplified, so it's not going to cover all the topics for you. The second one is error cost management. It's going to be simplifying for you, but it's going to result also in lower error cost, but also the rates are going to go up. So you're going to make more errors because of it, but the cost of those errors is going to be lower. So your brain kind of does this math for you. So he or she, I don't know what's your gender of your brain, actually is going to decide what are you going to do with it. So do you want to have easier solutions that are going to be less costly for you, but are you allowing yourself to make more errors? Well, apparently you do. And the third part is when the task is just too hard for you, and your mind goes like, oh no, hell no, I don't want to do that. Let's do a shortcut. And that's where you just go for something easier, something simpler, something that is not going to demand of you to understand the whole problem. And the most I think, like, easy thing to understand how it works is the confirmation bias. Easy example of it is, for example, you go to, I don't know, Thailand, and you're like, okay, the Thai food is very spicy. And on the second day, you order a curry, and the curry is super spicy. I know, I experienced it. I do not recommend it. The curry is super spicy. You eat this with 5 people. Everybody is like, oh my God, this is so spicy. Everybody was right. Thai food is so spicy. But you kind of forget that for the past day and a half, you were eating normal food, and it wasn't that spicy. So you ate like 5 meals already. They weren't spicy, but this one meal though, oh my God, the Thai food is so spicy. So this is confirmation bias. We just find one information and confirm our beliefs, and we go with it. That's kind of a little bit of a problem, as we have, for example, something like flat earthers, and they just explore the internet, and there's one article that says that the earth is flat. So apparently, obviously, it is, right? Because there's one evidence of it. So yeah, people tend to go for the cool one thing that confirms their bias and not for the actual facts that they have like tons of. And that's a huge problem as well. But wow, this is a beautiful white stripe on the right, so whatever. Okay, so for the quick examples as well of other biases that you can experience, we're gonna go to the boring part, yes, science. The first one is the very hard to pronounce for me, availability bias. Wow, I did it. And what is like easy way to understand it? We use something that is available for us. So we go into our memory, and some stuff are available for us because, for example, we've seen it yesterday, or we did some solution, and it's ready in our memory, and we're going to use it. And for example, for code features, it's a danger because we're going to use the same solutions over and over because we did it and it worked. So we're going to go back to this solution, and we're not going to think about new one because we have a solution right there. And we don't think about something else that might actually work better for this particular thing. I'm also going to talk about this bias a bit later as well, so this is not the end of the hard words topic. And now, hyperbolic discounting. Wow, that's super awesome. It means basically that some developers or some people actually choose solutions that have more recent rewards, but smaller, for example, and they don't wait for something bigger. So for example, we're choosing a solution that is going to provide us with something right now. So like hack fixes, something that we're just doing, like, it works, but it's not perfect, right? So, but it works, so let's leave it. And it kind of sounds like we're creating a technical debt here, right? We don't like technical debt. So you kind of need to focus on that because it might bite us in the ass later on. And those might lead to need of rewriting entire functionalities later on. So it's worth to actually notice that. Another thing is gambler's fallacy. I'm gonna also give you a few examples how you can use it in your game and also in team management. But it's an expression of somehow intuition, let's say. So let's say that you're throwing a coin and you have also like your heads, and you keep, for example, losing, but you feel like you're due a win. So the tails has to be there. Like, we have 3 heads, so the tails has to be next, right? No, like, it's still a 50% chance, but you await this win because you lost so much already. So where is my win? Well, it's the same chance that it was before. But human brain is very persistent on this. And how you can use it, for example. You can use it in reward system in the game. You can create a streak mechanics where players are going to receive valuable rewards when they continue playing. And it's going to be, when they perform, for example, consecutive actions, they're going to keep winning, and it's going to entice them to follow this. And it's going to encourage players to keep playing, hoping they're going to continue their streaks. So it's up to you if you want to go and make them feel good or bad. So I don't know what you want to do, but let's make players feel bad. Also, you can do the same thing with randomized events. if a player, for example, fails the challenge multiple times, it might be a good solution, for example, to implement something that the game could increase the chances of winning the next time, so that the player actually struggled, for example, with some challenge 4 times, and maybe for the 5th time, the game should understand, hey, maybe I should implement something that's going to be easier for the player, so that he actually has the feeling of the win, feeling of the success, so that he continues to play. Same goes for chance-based mechanics. It's basically if you want player to, for example, to bet something. Maybe there's like in-game currency, and you want a player to keep betting on this. And so again, it's up to you if you want to do a good thing to the player or a bad thing. Like you just remember about this, that they're gonna want to keep playing even to continue their streak, right? So. If you want them to fail or lose, up to you. And yeah, as for team management, there's some stuff that you can do for the team to actually feel bad, feel good. Well, if you like, okay, we can also talk about how to make them feel bad. Oh, you see how I'm a very good producer, make them feel bad. Okay, so what do you want to do? You want to, for example, apply this to emphasize the idea that the past achievements led to a streak of positive outcomes. So if you want to do a performance talk with somebody, you talk about a streak of things that they did that was good, and it's going to motivate them to actually maintain high performance. They're going to be like, okay, so I did 5 things good. Now I'm going to want to do another 2 things because the streak is very good. So you want to actually focus on those streaks. And same goes for the feedback loops. This is actually the same thing almost, but you want to focus on that. You want to suggest that the future accomplishments are likely. So, hey, you did 5 good things right, so probably you're gonna do 3 more right things in the future. So you just want to push it onto them so that they feel better and they feel like expecting really cool things out of themselves. But also remember that while you're using gambler's fallacy or whatever bias, it might be sometimes perceived as manipulation. So you need to strike a balance and avoid misleading players or team members. So yeah, it's okay to use it, but don't overuse it. Be transparent about this and be ethical because it's super important, because if somebody is going to feel that you're manipulating them, they're not going to want to play your game or work with you. So you need to feel this balance and do it just in a decent manner, I would say. Okay, so, and this applies to all the biases, not only to this one. So like, don't manipulate with any of these things. Like, don't tell people I told you to manipulate them. I didn't. I have it on record, so like, I'm gonna watch you. Okay, this now goes to conjunction fallacy. It's super stupid for me, and I absolutely love it. Because this means, like, for example, we have 2 sentences. John wears glasses. And the other sentence, John wears glasses and read books. And what is more probable? Well, most of the people are going to say the second one. But how? How is a sentence created of 2 things more probable than the sentence created of 1? It's definitely more probable that John wears glasses than he wears glasses and read books. So I don't know why people keep choosing the second one. We just like logical conjoined things, apparently. And we can also, of course, use that. For example, for quests and challenges, when you're creating a quest or some challenge, it might be cool for you to create something with that involves completing multiple objectives. It's going to be more incentive for the player to complete a few things rather than 1. So if a quest consists of some points, even though these points are, for example, more challenging, it might be cool for them to finish 5 tasks like that. And it's just gonna seem more enticing, and same goes for loots and rewards. And now I'm gonna drink. I love this silence when I'm drinking. Silence when I'm drinking. That's awesome. And with loot and rewards, it's kind of the thing that I think that we're already doing a lot. So, for example, when you create a loot that is gonna be collected, you might think about how people need to combine multiple attributes of it and gather a whole set, for example, that when they gather the whole set, it's going to be more valuable. There's easiest solutions, for example, The Witcher, when you had the whole armor, it was giving you more boosts, or what, I don't remember what profits, but you get some boosts of it. So it was pretty cool, and I think that's kind of common, but now you see why it works so good. I'm super fun. Yeah. Okay. Now goes for team management. So, yeah, what you can do is same thing about goal setting as same thing about quests. So if you're setting some goals for your team, it might be cool for them to actually set a goal that consists of a few points rather than one. So achieving a multiple milestones simultaneously at the same time, let's say, it might be more interesting for them. They're gonna feel better about it, and it's going to be better for you because they're gonna achieve more. So fine. And for recognition. And incentives, actually still the same thing because it's the same example. And if you're gonna talk to your team and recognize what they did good, it's gonna be cool to say, hey, you did this and that good, and it's gonna make them feel that the success is more recognized, it's more meaningful, because you see a lot of things that are, for example, conjoined together, even though, for example, he did or she did like 5 things that evolved into one. It's going to be much more profitable for your team member if you recognize those 5 small things rather than one big one, because it's like still 5, it's more, right? Awesome. And as for creating cross-functional teams, it's also good not only because of this bias, but because of many reasons. For example, the effort that they do together is going to be more valuable for the teams rather than individual contributions, but also they're going to be aware inside of those cross-functional teams what they do. So like the programmers, for example, going to understand more what the designer does, and they're going to talk more about it. So, but actually creating cross-functional teams probably could be another topic of another talk, but it's also fun for them to work together and to understand each other and, well, go for a common goal. And now we're gonna go to a super topic of shortcuts called heuristics. I couldn't stop myself from doing the memes, sorry, like this is part of me, it's not even funny, but it's there. So yeah, about the heuristics, it's like I said, shortcuts, they're not optimal. Sometimes they're even not reliable or reasonable. Wow. But they're quick and sufficiently effective. It's like rule of thumbs, educated guesses, and stuff like that. So we can talk about a little bit where we can see it and what we can do with it. Okay, so like I said, we are coming back to this majestic world of availability bias. I said it, I fucked it up, I was sure I'm going to do it. So you see it written, so no problem. People judge, like I said, an event as likely, more likely if it's frequent or if they saw it in the past, if it's easy to recall, yeah? So if we discuss a lot of low probability outcomes, it's gonna be, for people, it's gonna be more like, oh, but we just discussed this risk that is super low probable, but we discussed it, so it must be like, it might happen. So a lot of discussions of a low probability outcome may increase the perceived probability of it, and sometimes it's not a very great solution. So mentioning, of course, the risks is a very good idea, sure, but focusing on it, mentioning it many times, might be a little bit too much, because you're going to implement this idea in developers or producers or managers' heads, and they're going to remember about it, and it's going to be kind of there, and it might happen, but it's low probable, so maybe it's worth mentioning once. And also same goes for feature prioritization. You can use this availability bias strategically. So you can highlight the most visible and easily accessible features so that it's up there. So if developer works on some features and you know that some things are going to be most visible and most important for the actual game, you just want to talk about it more so that they focus on it as well, and that is just fresh out there. Maybe it's not the most important feature in the game, but maybe it's more visible for the player. And same goes for the bug fixing. Sometimes we are focusing on some bugs that maybe from the developer's perspective are very important, but for the player's perspective, not always. So we gotta think about what the player is gonna see, what is gonna stay in their brain, and what is he or she gonna experience, see, feel, and maybe we wanna focus on that because, I don't know, like jumping broken might be more important for the player than the performance issues, for example, right? So you just gotta remember about that. But also performance is very important. I know I worked on it. And hindsight bias, it's kinda, like it's very hard to overcome, I think, but because this is the knowledge, when you have a knowledge that the event happened, and it increases its perceived chance of occurring. So, for example, we were doing a game, and the game turned out badly, and the game basically, well, sucked. And you think about it, well, why? How haven't we seen that thing? Like, it was so obvious. It wasn't. If it was obvious, you would probably do something with it, but you didn't because you didn't see it. And people tend to be overconfident in the thing that they should have perceived it. But no, like give yourself a break. What you can do about it, for example, you can work on it in postmortem. You can encourage the team to actually reflect on the things and the decisions of the teams, how they were in the particular moment. So say to the team, hey, focus on the things, how you were feeling, what you were thinking, where you were doing this particular feature, and then you can actually think about why you were making the wrong decision or something like that. So just encourage them to put them in this particular moment, not from the now perspective. Like now perspective is completely different. And it's also going to result in learning from mistakes. So if you think about why you made the decision as it was, you can think about the future decisions and say, okay, so I'm right now in this situation, let's not do it again. And it's just like, I think it's logical and makes sense. I don't know if you agree, but well, too bad, it's my talk. And about the overconfidence. I like this topic particularly because, well, we often do not realize how little do we know. For example, let's look at me giving this presentation. You do not realize how little do I know. And how much additional information do we need? So for example, there was a research when people were supposed to estimate a return of investment. So they were kind of asked to, hey, estimate how the investments, what is going to be the return of investment with 98% confidence. You can set upper and lower bounds. There was no limit to the bounds that they were setting. So they could have set like really wide bounds. Just make it so that the 98% confidence was there. And the result was 50 to 70% of confidence. Even though they had no limits, they still limited the bounds so much that the confidence was much lower than the one expected. And it might be a huge problem in strategic planning because we're overconfident in ourselves. And people basically have difficulty thinking about resolving those conflicts. We don't like thinking about risks, so what we do, we deny it exists. We like no, let's not think about it, this is going to be future me problems. Well, yes, so future you is basically not in a good situation. And this leads to overconfidence, which is super interesting for me as well, because we, probably like half of us at least, suffers from imposter syndrome, and I wonder how it connects with this overconfidence, because I feel like sometimes we're experiencing both of those things, and it's also a cool thing to maybe double, if some of you want to double in cognitive biases, for example, and imposter syndrome, maybe that's a good idea for a future talk. Go for it. And and people basically, if you talk about the risks that we don't like, people who talk about them are sometimes called out to be provokers, and because they provoke anxiety, because we don't know what to do with this risk. And this is like, why you're saying this? This is a risk. It's like, well, let's not think about it. And managers love to do it. Stakeholders love to do it. Let's not talk about the risk. Just like ignore this. Like, that doesn't matter. Well, it does. And the other problem that goes with it is people are not looking at for example, their solutions, their problems, If somebody, like this actually was from investment research, so I'm focusing on investments here. If somebody was looking for some investments and they wanted to invest in some project, let's say a game, they were looking for some very similar game and see how this previous game performed. Yeah, that makes sense because it's similar, but at the same time, maybe you should focus on the particular investment that you're doing here, because it might have some different reasons. So focus on the product that you're gonna work right now instead of looking for something that is similar, because it doesn't make that much sense. It's still different. And yeah, I talked a lot about risks assessment already, but you can also channel this overconfidence into experimentation. You can encourage the team to pursue some new solutions and like, hey, you're overconfident in something, maybe just dig deeper, you go for it. And it actually might be very creative, and experimentation might be super cool and give you a lot of new solutions. And it's very bold, but well, we gotta be bold to do games, right? Or stupid, but who cares? And yeah, error management biases. It's also called sometimes like error management theory. It's focusing kind of on the first thing that I had on first slide. So how costly is the mistake, and are we agreeing to do that or are we not? Broadly speaking, it's the possible things can be identified for three clusters, like the three first ones I'm having on the presentation. The first one are protective biases. For example, like physical ones. It's like aversion to food or sick people. For example, you see a sick person, you're like, yeah, maybe I'm not gonna go near this person. Like your cost, for example, of not going near this person is that you have to go around I know that's exaggeration, but you go around this person, so you like, I don't know, spend more time, or you don't sit, for example, on a bus next to a sick person. But if you would sit next to this person in a bus, and then you would get sick, then the cost would be much bigger, because you would be sick for a week, and you just got tired standing on a bus instead of sitting, so the cost was lower. Basically, it's just focusing on lower cost, higher gain. The second one is interpersonal perception. Basically, focus on the things that people that are inside your group are perceived more kind and generous than people outside your group. People from outside your group are sometimes perceived are more dangerous and mean, and that's how, for example, stereotypes derive as well. And this means also for you that maybe if you're doing some exercises for your team and you want them to actually get together and feel better, do some exercise that you want to have a common goal. Don't separate them into two teams that are going to be competing with each other. Make them one team that is challenging some environment, for example, some tasks together. Don't divide them, because it's going to make them feel like they're not going to be aware of it, but they're going to be a little bit hostile to the other team because it's competition. So yeah, we like that. People are awesome. And it also relates to self-judgment. It's super, I would say, not fair, but we are unrealistically positive perception of our own qualities. So this is the same thing actually for the overconfidence. So we're very positive about our thinking. Again, I wonder how it connects with imposter syndrome. So I hope people do more research. What we can do to use it in the game? We can, for example, focus on it while we do tutorial designs. So do the tutorial designs focused on preventing critical errors. So don't put the player and don't teach them all the mechanics, every little detail, what you can do. Teach them how to avoid the most crucial mistakes. So that's going to be most effective for the player and for you as well as they play the game. Ensure a learning curve as well. And the same goes for balancing challenges. So adjust the challenge curve to initially allow player to recover from some mistakes they do at first. So of course it's logical, but I just want to put it out there. So you want to increase the difficulty of it and make sure that at the first challenges people are allowed to make some mistakes and they're still going to enjoy this and progress forward. So yeah, and as for feedback system, Also, cool thing that I've seen in few games, feedback system that provide guidance when the player is failing. So the game is going to recognize the player is lost, is failing, maybe push some, I don't know, some tip that can say, hey, maybe use this skill or whatever. And just some suggestions to help player correct their mistakes. Some people don't like it, so maybe do it as like they can turn it off, but it's cool to actually have this option. And yeah, the risk management again. Oh, that's super fun. Yeah, I'm talking a lot about this risk management. So yeah, if it's too boring for you, if you want to leave, let's make a deal. You can leave, but you give me 5 stars for the talk, okay? I think it's fair. But yeah, anyway, you want to devote some resources to and attention to prevent the errors that have the most severe consequences. So don't focus on all the errors. Just think about what is going to be most costly for you. So it's going to be most costly for you if the player stops playing the game at all. So focus on the things that are going to bring the bigger costs and base the decision making on it. So encourage the team members as well to consider potential errors when making decisions. And yeah, that's the arrow. Okay, that's this is the last example, and then we're gonna do study, like super study on software developers. And yeah, so fundamental attribution error is, well, like, I have a definition here that's very sciencey. I don't know if I want to do it to you, so maybe I'm gonna do the normal one. So this is basically means when observers tend to over-attribute the behaviors of others to their personal traits, and rather than dispositional factor. So, for example, if you see somebody that is being late, you like, oh my God, this person is late because he's selfish. Okay, but you didn't think about the fact that maybe he was stuck in traffic. What's this fun fact about actually? It's you when you think about yourself. Those things doesn't apply to you. When you're, for example, bad at exam, you're like, oh, I failed this exam because I was working very late and I was tired. It's not like this is not your fault, right? No. But if somebody's late, oh, they're selfish. Well, yeah, we're kind of fun in this way. Sorry. What you can do in the game to actually use it, to make the game more like feel more true, you can implement some moral dilemmas. You can introduce dilemmas where players need to make some difficult decisions, some internal conflicts, for example. So you can implement some moral dilemmas that will show them how external factors, pressure, and like some situations are gonna are gonna impact the decisions that they're making. So it's gonna implement the deeper player engagement. They're gonna be like, okay, so I saw this, and this influenced actually my decision. Well, interesting. Same goes with narrative with context. If you're creating some actions and some things, you want to influence you want to show the player that external factors influenced their behavior. For the character art, also like same solution. Like show that the character actually evolved due to something experience that he or she had, right? So you experienced something in the past, so you wanna provoke thinking that meant that we are in this particular moment right now. And for dynamic behavior, same thing. So for example, that the environment is influencing their actions, and that the game world is actually influencing them. And it's going to reinforce the bias in a way that is enhance the game's realism. And yeah, okay, so for the study, there was a study made on software developers, and they were supposed to make some, let's call them actions, yeah? So they were developing some systems or some arrays or whatever, they were doing something. I didn't go too deep into that because if you want to, there is going to be a reference to the study later on. The problem was that study actually showed that the more often the people that used biases to make this to do the solutions actually had to redo their work more often. For example, 69 of the biased solution had to be redone, 69% of the biased solution had to be redone. That's a lot. So if somebody used the biased, in 69% of cases, they had to redo it. That's a lot of time, right? And actually, they measured it. It was 35% of developers' time. Do we have money for wasting 35%? I don't think so. So there were actually some most common errors in the research. There were 10 of them, but I don't think that it makes sense to talk about them all. So I chose like 4 most important. For example, the most common errors based on cognitive bias was fixation. So when the developer fixated on a specific solution, so they were rejecting other solutions and errors that contradicted their beliefs. And for example, there was like somebody was trying to compile code and they got the connection issues. So they were like, why do I have these connection issues? And they started getting those connection issues and they started to dig so deep in the connection issues that they totally forgot what they were doing at first. So yeah, maybe they solved these connection issues. Maybe they even solved it for the whole project. Sure, but they lost sight of their original task. So I don't know, maybe we had this connection issue planned for some other developer and we wanted this first task to be done first, but they just got fixated and dug deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's important to actually mention to developers that might happen. So they're gonna be like, when they start digging, they're gonna be like, maybe I should not do that. And they might decide to ignore you, but well, that happens. And as goes for the convenience error, sometimes people resorted to using the easiest or the most convenient solution. So there was like a person that was using array to simulate a graph. So they chose like the first item on the array was actually the starting point of the graph, and they keep getting error because they ignored the thing that the first point might be empty. And it's just a result of limited exploration. They didn't think or they didn't check that the first array might be empty because it was the quicker solution, so it was convenient. But you gotta go deeper sometimes, and you gotta do some more exploration of the things that might happen. So you gotta think of some consequences of those things. Another thing was like subconscious actions. We use a lot of tools, right? We want our life easier because probably some of you are programmers. We want to do things quicker. We got into programming because we want to do things quicker, or not. But yeah, we do a lot of subconscious actions. Like we're trusting our environment to run tests, for example. And there was actually in the study an example when a person was receiving normally an email when there were errors. So they ran the test, there was no email, so they submitted not noticing results and stuff. But sometimes the email, for example, either get lost or isn't delivered, or you might miss it. So we trust too much in those kind of things, and we just subconsciously use it. And sometimes it's very good to actually focus on those things and check if the email arrived, for example, right? So, well, yeah, just focus on that. And same goes, for example, we have optimism when we have one solution and it works for some small chunk of the task. We're like, okay, if it works for the small chunk, I'm gonna implement for this whole huge thing because it worked for this small part. Well, it's not obviously sometimes it might not work. So we gotta dig a little bit deeper and maybe not be too optimistic about it at first. So like you need to check for if you're gonna submit something that is gonna be working for the whole system, please check it because I'm finding this constantly and it pains my heart not to have built. And yeah, actually, if you, the fun fact is like when you talk to people and you like make them aware of those biases, of the things that they might do, they actually have positive effects. Like they are taking fewer actions based on these biases. So this sole realization of it might make it a bit better for you, for them, for everybody, for the company. And yeah, the problem is. Yeah, there are a few consequences of these cognitive biases because actually I talked about this more, but there are some more human, social, and stuff. But there are also some solutions. So yeah, The problem is, where biases exist, people tend to adopt beliefs that are based on not enough evidence sometimes. Like I said, sometimes biases are not logical, and sometimes there is not enough evidence and are insufficient or something. It might lead to stereotyping, so watch out. It is better for us because it's like speed of processing, but maybe sometimes it's better to think more about stuff. Also, is it design flow or design feature? It's not that sure. Sometimes it's gonna be easier for us because it's gonna be just quicker. For example, if you think about a fever, at first it might seem like a flaw, right? It makes you feel like, well, it makes you feel bad. You feel like sometimes it even can lead to death, but later on it was just discovered that fever actually helps you fight disease, right? So at first it appeared like a design flaw, but in the end it kind of resulted in being a design feature. Same goes for biases, right? So you gotta think about it. And yeah, in general, it can lead to, for example, inadequate exploration, which I already said. So if somebody is using some solutions that they have like fresh or some small chunks, it may lead to people not exploring different pieces of information or search for alternate solutions because they already have something that works, but maybe there's going to be something that works better. And actually exploration is a very important part of our development, so encourage people to do that. And it also might lead to context loss, like I said, with this doubling connection issue. You might be sidetracked, you might follow some other task before because you like lost focus in the first one. And you're gonna lose a bigger picture, and well, it's a problem for a lot of people. What you can do about it? You can step back. You can take a break from your own development pattern. You can just go around. You can help other developers become aware of some beneficial practices. You can like clean code or something. But stepping back is always very important and very cool. Just take a break from it. Just realize that, for example, you're fixated on something or that you're ignoring some other things. Maybe using some different perspective is also a solution. So some feedback can help with biases like fixation or superficial selection. It sounds a little bit like reviews, right? So maybe reviewing is fun, like buddy reviews, peer reviews. Like it's very cool to use other people. Like we have people around us. Let's use them in a good way. You also can use a systematic approach. So look at the whole system instead of looking at the whole small part. Well, we are doing some parts of the system. Like if you're doing, for example, a AAA game, you're going to be doing small part, the whole project. So sometimes take a step back and look at the whole project or a whole system that you're doing. If maybe it's going to help your perspective or it's going to help others, you're going to be able to understand more what people need from you, what you can provide for them. Actually, RTFM, fun fact, this is a very scientific research that I found digging deep. And I was like, RTFM, I've seen it somewhere, but like, what was it? So I Googled RTFM, and it basically means read the fucking material. And then it was in a science study. Like, what the hell? But okay, but it makes sense. Like, read the documentation. It can help you. It can, if you read the documentation before, it can help you see more ways to solve the problem. It's gonna make you understand the tool more, the thing more. Just read it, and it's gonna help you a lot. And also maybe as for processes, yeah, that's very close to my heart as well, as I'm a producer. So designing and testing early and frequently is super important. So like using agile methods, but well, let's not talk about this too much. But using standards, coding standards and some libraries also might be very cool. It's gonna help you find cool code to reuse. And yeah, like I said, make your developers aware of the biases that they pose a significant threat to their development process. And there is a list of handful practices that might help to reduce the effect and that developers can individually employ. And it might actually do a lot of long-time benefits And this is actually a table from this super scientific study. As you see, RTFM, it's right there. If you want to take a picture of it, go for it, because I'm not going to talk about it too much, because it's like you see, it's very complicated. But you might double it into it later on and just look at those solutions, and maybe it's going to be something cool for you. Also, at the end, I'm going to have reference to this study, so you can read it and see what solutions were implemented, how the developers found each other, found them in these situations, what they helped them, what didn't, and stuff like that. Okay, we're done. Okay, cool. And we're near the end. So yeah, as a conclusions, the more important thing is noticing the bias. And people who were aware of the biases were choosing more optimal solutions. So I've talked about this already a few times, but be aware that if you are even just notice the bias, you might actually go for more optimal. And be aware of the similarity of some situations. Maybe if you used bias somewhere before, you were going to use it again, for example, or if you used this code before, maybe you don't want to reuse it because it's a different situation. So think about the similarities. And remember not to overuse it, because it might be taken as a manipulation. So remember, if you're managing a team and you're doing this for planning and stuff, remember not to overuse it. So just think about this fine line, and just develop, rely on your private experience as well. You just gotta figure out your line and your teams and stuff. So we already did the QR, because every time somebody does a presentation, there's QR code. Everybody's assumed. But now I'm gonna tell you what's there. It's a list of very cool biases. You can go there, and there's a list of a lot of biases. You can Google each of one of them, check it out. Maybe it's gonna be something cool for you. Maybe it's gonna be something that you might need or use, and it's gonna be beneficial for you, your team, your company, whatever. And those are the references I told you about. One of those is the study with the developers. I don't remember which one, but you're gonna be able to find it. So you can also screenshot it, and you can also, if you wanna ask me more about this stuff, you can ping me on LinkedIn or whatever, whenever you want. And also, of course, I gotta do this because we are hiring, actually. So if you wanna work with me, I'm awesome, of course. So you can come and work with us. And thanks.